Welcome back to Next Gen Console Watch, our show following everything happening with the latest gaming hardware. I'm Daemon Hatfield, and I'm joined in studio this week by Max Scoville. Great to have you, Max.
Hey, in the flesh.
He hosts IGN's PlayStation Podcast, Podcast Beyond. And joining us remotely is Ryan McCaffrey, host of IGN's Xbox Podcast, Podcast Unlocked. Ryan, wish you were here.
Hello, gentlemen. Wish I was there, too.
Although it is kind of a gray, rainy day here in LA, so I hope you're having better weather up in the Bay Area. And this week we're talking about...
not, but let's continue.
This week we're talking about live service games and whether or not the future holds more of them, or whether have we reached peak live service. This all comes because Warner Brothers is once again reiterating its intention to double down on live service games, despite the failure of the recent Suicide Squad Kill the Justice League. So Warner Brothers Discovery CEO and president of streaming and games, J.B. Perrette, was speaking at a recent Morgan Stanley event. He acknowledged the success of projects like Hogwarts Legacy, which was a single-player game last year, best-selling game of the year, but it says the business of AAA console releases can be volatile. His quote is, "Rather than just launching a one-and-done console game, how do we develop a game around, for example, Hogwarts Legacy or Harry Potter, that is a live service where people can live and work and build and play in that world on an ongoing basis?" So, they have the best-selling game of the year, outselling Call of Duty, which is an incredible feat. It made $1 billion. Let's give it a nice round number. It made $1 billion, but not happy with that. And on some level, I understand from the investor's perspective, because $1 billion is nice, but you know what's nicer than that? Multiple $1 billion every year, which is what Fortnite makes.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, it's the whole like buying the cow, milk for free kind of thing. It's,
right.
You don't want a golden egg. You want a goose that lays them.
Ryan, what do you think? Are they learning the wrong lessons from Suicide Squad Kill the Justice League?
I mean, yes and no. On the one hand, I get it. The ceiling is way higher for a successful, thriving live service game, which Helldivers 2 is experiencing right now, and Suicide Squad's on the wrong end of that. They are the big flop. I mean, financially speaking. I'm not saying it's a terrible game, but it's definitely, in WB's own words, a big disappointment. Now, I looked up, the best estimate was that Hogwarts Legacy took about 4 or 5 years to make, about $150 million. And you just said, Daemon, that they made $1 billion. So that's, that says that if you do a great single player game that people want, it can be also super high. And not only that is the fact that Suicide Squad took all in, it was 9 years from the time that Arkham Knight shipped to when this Suicide Squad game shipped. And I don't know what the budget was, but I know that 9 years of AAA development is probably several times higher, at least a couple times higher than the $150 million that Hogwarts Legacy is reported to have cost. So, it seems a little odd to just kind of blindly look away from the $1 billion success of Hogwarts Legacy to go, yeah, that's nice, but really we want this thing that we just failed at. We want that to work. So I don't know. I think there's a little bit of a disconnect between the reality and what the business suit guy thinks is going to be possible on a regular basis. And even Bungie themselves has shown that it's not an easy road, and they're the ones that kind of pioneered, that really forged this road. But almost 10 years ago now. In fact, it'll be 10 years this fall from the release of the first Destiny. So, I don't like it as a gamer, and we'll see how it affects developers and how it affects the success of these publishers and these games.
Yeah, they're not my cup of tea either, but I certainly don't mind them existing. So long as they don't encroach on the single-player gaming that I enjoy. And there's always been this question of how many of these live service games can the market sustain, since by their very nature they take a lot of your time and you don't have time to play other games, right? So there's many examples of successful ones, not even Fortnite, Rocket League, Genshin Impact,
GTA
Online, Sea of Thieves, many others. But it's just how many of these games. The point I'm trying to make actually is that more of these games that are coming are going to fail than succeed. So I wonder why they don't see that red flag.
Yeah, we just recently heard about Time Splitters, Next getting canceled, and some footage showed up online, and people were quick to draw comparisons with Fortnite, which obviously Fortnite owe something to the original Time Splitters, but like it is a shockingly similar looking game, like both in terms of just the the perspective, the UI, like the player select screen, that kind of thing. And I cannot fathom why you would try to compete with Fortnite, because like one of the biggest games in history, one of the biggest games around, still going strong. Obviously, it's I think probably seen diminishing returns since the sort of its initial heyday. But like, if you're going to release a dare I say like bargain bin version, a cheaper knockoff, how do you get cheaper than free? And the irony is, it's called Time Splitters, and you're expecting people to split their time between something that is established, successful, massively, like there's plenty of stuff going on. Like it's a constant, that's the thing, is that it's not just like a product, it is a place, like you're trying to get people to effectively change where they're hanging out. It's even more so than just like, yeah, come, drop $70, come over and be in Hogwarts. It's not as simple as that. It's like, here's where are all your friends this weekend? Are they in Fortnite? Are they in Rocket League? Are they in Warzone? That kind of thing. And yeah, the sort of the calculus of trying to figure out how you get money from people is almost secondary to getting them to come over and dedicate their time in this place. And that's the sort of, I feel like the tricky part of the service aspect is like, you're not just building a game, which is immensely complicated to begin with. You are building a game that is able to sustain people's interests and keep their attention. And you're supposed to sort of I'm impressed that Helldivers has had as strong of a start as it has, and I'm happy to see it. Like it's awesome to see it happening. I'm curious if there is enough, if they can keep enough meat on those bones to keep people happy. Like they're adding mechs, they're adding vehicles. They just patched in, I think, meteor showers and fire tornadoes, which is awesome. I mean, maybe not for players exactly. That's kind of a challenge, but like, can they keep doing that for 6 years? Like what does the roadmap look like here?
Right. Yeah.
Well, and let me ask you guys, just bringing it back to Rocksteady and WB for a second, since that's kind of the genesis of this conversation. As somebody that, as one of millions of people that adore the Arkham games, the Batman games, what if they're going to make whatever their next game is, like I could easily see them going back to Batman, probably not Arkham, but maybe a different take on it. But what are the odds that Rocksteady's next game isn't a live service game? It seems like it's probably all but confirmed, right? Given that they've just spent 9 years building one, and that the business daddy wants it, right?
Wait. So what are you saying? That you believe it will be live service or not?
I think that even if they were to go back to Batman, which I think a lot of us would love, whether it's Arkham or not, but I just think the odds of it being a single-player game like the Arkham games were is extremely low at this point.
That doesn't sound like what the bosses at Warner Brothers want. You're right. Despite the intense competition for gamers' time, we knew that a lot of developers are working on live service games at the moment. As reported by GamesIndustry.biz, there's a new report from Griffin Gaming Partners that finds that 95% of game makers are either developing or maintaining a live service game. It's called the 2023 Game Development Report. It surveyed 537 studios across the globe. 95% of them, so just over 500 of them, are working on or maintaining a live service game. In addition to that, 66% of those surveyed agreed that live service games are necessary for long-term success. So what is that? I guess going back to the question of, as long as I don't mind them, as long as they don't encroach on my single-player games, it sounds like, I don't know, is there a danger of them encroaching on single-player games?
Absolutely. I don't think you're going to straight up replace single player games, but I think there's definitely, we see these trends. We always see these trends happening, and the idea is to always kind of, create something that keep people hold on to, that people stick around for, that people, effectively they're chasing the arcade cabinet, which was a machine you pumped quarters into and continue to do so. Like that's the idea. I mean, remember like 10 years ago, we saw all these single player series have like multiplayer components kind of shoehorned in. Like Mass Effect 3 had a multiplayer mode, which no one asked for that. But it was an excuse to, ideally keep people from trading it in. And then there was the whole controversy. I remember EA had this thing where it was an online pass. I think it was. Was that what they called them?
I don't remember what they called it.
Yeah, and it was like basically a piece of paper that came in a box. Remember those things? And you put it in, and basically it was a single-use item with what was otherwise something you would trade in. And then I feel like that people did not respond to that well. But it's sort of a non-issue when you're dealing with a digital game anyway. Trade-in's not really a problem anymore. But it's you're still trying to just get people to stay attached, to keep people they want to have an active player base. They want to have an audience that's paying attention. But I mean, I think that you look at something like GTA and Call of Duty they are single player games most of the time, but they have massive multiplayer components. I mean, we just recently saw Modern Warfare 3 had a underwhelming single player
Very
component.
short.
Yeah, and it was also usually those are on an alternating 2-year cycle, or they skip a year. This was the rare occasion where it's like Modern Warfare 2 was immediately followed by 3, and I feel like that showed. But they also were originally talking about skipping that annual release anyway, and just I guess just having a long tail roadmap on Modern Warfare 2, and then instead that turned into a game that you buy a brand new copy of in the fall. I don't know. I would be totally fine with the ongoing investment into games as a service if it was accompanying single player stuff. Like if Hogwarts Legacy 2 comes out and there's a big huge single player experience, but there's also the added go to Hogwarts with your friends side of it. There's the GTA Online of it all.
Sure. Yeah, I think that's a smart way to handle it. Ryan, how about you? For those of us that prefer to, are one and done AAA single player games, is the industry's continued fascination with live service gaming a threat to that type of game?
I think on some level it has to be, because the examples that Max cited, which are great examples, both Call of Duty and Grand Theft Auto, they have the biggest budgets on the planet. There's nothing, they have effectively no limits on their budget for all intents and purposes, where they can build an entire single player experience for the people that want that, and build an entire live service online experience for people that want that. But not everybody can make that choice. In fact, I would venture to say that most developers probably can't. And so, yeah, in some way, shape, or form, that choice probably is going to impact single-player gaming. Now, the good news is we have seen over the past few years that single-player gaming is still insanely strong, from Elden Ring to Spider-Man 2 to God of War, to all kinds of stuff that's still, single player is still very much alive and well. Jedi Survivor was a great one from last year. So, I'm going to be curious to see if they can kind of marry them both in a way that doesn't alienate either audience. Like, I know it's got its issues on the long tail side of it right now and over the last few months, but I think Diablo 4 did a pretty good job of marrying both. Because for me, I am a massive Diablo fan, but I'm not super interested in going to level 100 and just kind of keeping it going for months and months. I put about 40 hours into the main story, took a character to the end and had an awesome time, and I feel like I've got my money's worth out of it. But for the people that do want to keep playing Diablo 4, there's all kinds of end game stuff. There's world bosses, all that kind of thing. So it will be a new test for developers to try and bridge that gap in the sense of uniting the live service and single player elements while also kind of keeping them apart as well.
Sure. Yeah, I think that's a smart way to handle it. If we think about the live service games that get it right, we mentioned a few of these before. I was thinking about Rocket League, Genshin Impact, Honkai Star Rail, Sea of Thieves, GTA Online, No Man's Sky, Final Fantasy XIV, Apex Legends, and Fortnite. I think one thing a lot of these have in common is they were new properties. It's not something that was already beloved, that the single player experience was taken away and reformed into a live service experience. Final Fantasy XIV is the exception to that, but of course that took a while. At launch, it was not the beloved game that it is.
We see a lot of successful live services that start really rough,
right?
And sometimes you have to literally nuke it from orbit, like in Final Fantasy XIV's case, and sometimes you just kind of have to weather some rough seas, as was the case with Sea of Thieves. I mean, Skull and Bones actually came out.
Yeah.
Is that gonna are people gonna stick around for that? Like, is that I am skeptical if that game will ever recoup its losses after being in development for 14 years or whatever.
Imagine.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it's wild. But again, it's not just a game. It's not just one game. It's like it is an ecosystem that they are trying to build and also kind of keep alive. And it's just, yeah, I don't know. It's gamers are fickle, and time is fleeting, and it's like not everyone has, even aside from money, like having time to stick around and dedicate to this kind of stuff.
That's the real issue.
Yeah.
Well, call me old-fashioned. I like to buy a game, play it by myself, finish it, put it away, and move on to the next game. So as long as I can continue doing that, I'll be fine. I've got the results of the poll from last episode. We were talking about the Switch 2, and we asked, which would you rather have as a Switch launch game, Metroid Prime 4 or Mario Odyssey? Would you be surprised to learn that Metroid Prime 4 won with 57% of the vote?
Wow.
Well, I only say surprised because Mario is obviously a much more popular franchise than Metroid.
Close vote, though.
Yeah, 57% to 42.6% for Mario Odyssey 2. Ryan, I think I know which one you would pick. Max,
Well,
would you want?
I'm
or go ahead.
hoping. Yeah, I'm hoping for just a brand new. I mean, if it's Odyssey 2, so be it. But
Sure,
the
a
thing I
3D
love
Mario.
about the 3D Mario games is, that they usually just reinvent themselves.
Yeah.
Yeah, same with that. Yeah, I think. I mean, Metroid Prime 4. The fact that it's also it's announced, it exists, theoretically. But like,
Does it?
whatever the next Mario thing is, whatever they call it, is going to be hopefully a huge surprise.
New poll for you to vote on for next episode. What game would you want WB Games to make next? If you got to choose, what would you assign to WB Games? Hogwarts Legacy 2, a new Batman game, maybe a new Injustice or Lego. There's also that Wonder Woman game that's announced and has been MIA ever since. Make sure to vote at IGN.com the day this episode goes live, and we'll share the results with you next episode. And that's going to do it for this edition of Next Gen Console Watch. Thank you to both Max and Ryan. Thank you to Jobert and Marian and everyone else working behind the scenes to make this episode possible. My name is Daemon. We'll be back next week with more on the latest gaming hardware. We'll see you then.